First of all, welcome to Rock Down Detroit Lions. Off the Cuff podcast on Sunday night, 8 p.m. is when we do this for the rest of the year. 8 p.m. is when I'm going to start. That could change. I doubt it, but for the rest of the year, plan on 8 o'clock. I'll be putting out a new schedule soon, and we're going to try to amp it up just a little bit and add a few more nights. I know it's been kind of weird, just random pop-ups going on here, but that's the joys of free agency. Obviously, if we get big breaking news, we'll jump in. But outside of that, we're going to stick to a schedule and kind of lock it down so we can get everybody in and know when we're on. And I'll post it. It'll be not only in the bio of the YouTube, but I'll put it on all the social medias, the Twitter, everything. There'll be a full schedule put out so you guys know where to be and when to be there. And I appreciate it when you guys spend time with me. It's awesome. You guys are great. And so let me welcome everybody into the chat already. Let's see here. We've got El Tori, Tracy, Lone Wolf, Better the Hunt, John Desage, Steve K, J Mommy in the house. Let's see, Braylon Dennis, James O'Brien, Carlos Laralde, and I apologize if I butcher names. David Fry, I remember Tobin wrote. Donovan Amos, Mike P. And if I missed anybody, it's not by purpose. Appreciate you guys joining Rock Down Detroit Lions tonight. So, you know me, I went deep in the weeds, man. I decided to figure out, or attempt to figure out, have a conversation with you guys tonight about, did our schedule get tougher without making any changes to it because of what just happened in free agency? So what I wanted to start with tonight, because it's kind of a longer conversation to go through all games, is just the away games tonight. And I did not do any NFC North teams. So it's everybody but. So there's 5 games, I think, 5 teams that we'll talk about tonight and how their free agency went so far. And this is prior to the draft. Some teams I was able to do a lot more than others. Some teams I didn't even want to spend time on, like the Cowboys. But I will do my best to try to explain, what's kind of going through my head tonight and what I see for this Lions team. Now, this is just a conversation. This is not like, I'm saying this is going to happen. This is, it's just, we're having a conversation. It's just my opinion. I'm trying to follow, the free agency acquisitions and where it's brought this Lions team so far in 2024 with a tougher schedule. We already have a tough schedule, like a very tough schedule. And I think that it just got more difficult. So that's what we're going to roll with tonight. So first of all, I'd like to start off with Arizona Cardinals. I'll try to get through all this within the first, 30, 45 minutes of the show. And then we'll get phone lines open. Every time I say that, I always forget. So you guys have to remind me around, 8:45, 8:50. If you guys want to call in, just let me know, remind me. And we'll open up the phone lines. So I'd like to start with the Cardinals. This is the one that I got the most notes on. And I'll just be honest, they've had a really, really good free agency so far. So one of the most active teams in free agency. On the offensive side of the ball, they brought in Desmond Ridder. Nothing really going on here. I mean, between him and Kyler Murray, I'm not big on Kyler Murray. I think that he's going to end up washing out just like Justin Fields did. I just don't think he's a very good quarterback. He has his moments. Justin Field had his moments. But did you guys know, and not to sidetrack already, but did you guys know that Justin Fields only had 40 touchdowns while with the Bears? I had no idea until today. 40 touchdowns. That's it through the air. And I don't know if matter of fact, I don't know if that included the ground. But 40 TDs, whereas Goff in the last 3 seasons has had almost 80. Insane. So that's why Justin Fields needs to be a running back, not a quarterback. All right, but anyway, back to the Cardinals here. I was on record earlier in the year stating that the Arizona Cardinals are going to be this year's or last year's Texans, that they're going to have a huge jump, with wins this year and surprise a lot of people. I still believe in that. Even though I think Kyler Murray is not the greatest quarterback in the world, I still think that they are going to have a pretty big jump over what they did last year. And by that, I mean, they could potentially win their division. They could make it to the playoffs. I think all of that is on the table. It just depends on how they put it together after the draft. But the Lions had, a lot of difficulty with dual threat quarterbacks every single year since Dan Campbell's been the head coach. It's not a, slight against Dan Campbell. It's just something that the defense hasn't figured out yet. And now, this year we're going up against Kyler Murray if he's healthy. Otherwise, you still have Desmond Ridder, which he can move his legs too. This is yet, another test, I guess I would say, for the defensive line and linebackers that, we just made some improvement with, and even the cornerbacks, down in the box. Can they finally step up in 2024? That's my question for this Detroit defense is, can they step it up? I'm not really impressed with the quarterback situation in Arizona, but I do believe that Kyler Murray can do better than what Justin Fields has done. Let's just put it that way. Here's kind of what they've done. So they added an offensive tackle, Jonah Williams, signed him away from Cincinnati. They re-signed Tristan Colon and Keith Ishmael. This offensive line already had a pretty solid right guard in Will Hernandez, who may be their best offensive lineman, quite honestly, on the team. And he's okay at best, but he's their best offensive lineman. At least I think so. Grading out in the mid 60s is not phenomenal. It's not elite. He let up 4 sacks, 29 pressures, and 6 hits last season, but only 1 flag the entire season. That's incredible. Those types of stats are what I would really key in on, is how many penalties, how often are you putting us into a bad situation? And he doesn't put him in a bad situation a whole lot. They selected right tackle Paris Johnson last season, and man, did he have a rough year. Welcome to the NFL. He gave up 8 sacks, 8 hits, 42 pressures, 12 flags, grading out in the low end of the 60s. Their center, and I'm going to butcher this guy's name, Hulti Frohold, I'm sure I'm close, is average at best. Not a great center. Again, grading out in the mid 60s. It's kind of across the line. They're all in the mid 60s, as well as letting up 3 sacks, 4 hits, 3 pressures, 8 flags. So really good on the pressures, right? I mean, he held his own through the center of that offense. But between 2 guys, 20 flags between 2 guys. That's a lot of penalties. So I'm not real impressed with the offensive line. I do believe that our defense is going to be able to have some fun here. I would expect that the Cardinals do address the offensive line in the draft, and probably early, if not often, starting with pick 27. They have 2 first-round picks, but more than likely, I think that they're probably going to utilize that pick for some sort of a trade, whether it's up or down. I wouldn't be shocked, if they end up moving back up off of number 4. And I know that sounds crazy, but depending on what happens with quarterbacks and the first 3 teams, if the player that they want is available, and it doesn't seem like the team that's asking to move up wants that player, they might move back, to 6, to 8, to 9, even with the Bears. Who knows? I don't believe that they're taking a quarterback, but they may not care if it's Marvin Harrison versus, anybody else as far as the wide receiver that they need to add to this group, or offensive linemen, which they can still grab. There's 2 or 3 really solid offensive linemen that are going to be available in the first, 12 to 15 picks. And that's where I think that they're going to spend their money. And their draft picks is really trying to shore up this offensive line that is just, it's in pieces. It's not that great. So I see some potential here for them, to do something with 4 wide receivers in the first round. It gives them options. They have 7 picks inside the top 104 slots. That's incredible. Those are the types of things that I was hoping that Brad Holmes was going to put together when we had all those picks in the last 2 drafts, the 2 first rounders, to really shake it up, man, shake and bake and add some more picks, keep this team full of healthy draft picks, in that sweet spot. And I call the sweet spot between 35 and 50. I did it last year, and it's right there. 35 and 50, those picks right there is going to be the sweet spot of this draft, in my opinion. And as soon as I get through this, I'll come back into the chat here in just a moment. They didn't bring any wide receivers in yet throughout free agency, and they added 1 depth guy at running back. So I think that tells me that they're probably going to draft a wide receiver, to be honest. I would expect that they add a wide receiver, to be honest with you, in the draft, and potentially a running back a little bit later in the draft. They have James Conner as their main guy, but they are lacking a true number 1 wide receiver, and they really don't have the greatest backups for running backs. I mean, they're all right, but you want to have that option of having a second guy, because running backs, man, you go through them like water, anymore in the NFL. Half of them seem to be injured by week 5 or out for the season. That's why I'm thankful that the Lions have 2 really good running backs. On the defensive side of the ball, they're running a 3-4 base front, and they only lost Lecky Fotu, who was really not their most dominant defensive lineman in 2023. And honestly, he didn't really have the greatest season anyway, and graded out somewhere around like 40 by PFF grade standards. They added a dominant linebacker in Mac Wilson. I didn't even know he was available. Like, I like Mac Wilson. He's graded out, around 81 overall, 5 sacks, 12 stops, pretty solid in coverage, allows a 90.1 passer rating. I'm expecting that the middle of this defense to be better in 2024. I think it's a very impressive signing. I think they went out and found the right guy. They had a right outside linebacker, Dennis Gardeck, and Chris Barnes, right inside linebacker, Chris Barnes, who combined 2023 for 50 stops on the season. They both grade out in the lower 60s. But of course, they still have left inside linebacker Kazir White, who had an average season, in an average season grade to show it. But he racked up 30 stops, only 2 sacks, but 30 stops on the season. And then the best overall linebacker on this team, in my opinion, is Zaven Collins. He grades out in the mid 70s. He racked up 22 stops and 4 sacks. I mean, between all these linebackers, they're really getting a lot of stops. They play the run pretty well. So I'm pretty impressed here. I think that if they added another stud linebacker or a linebacker at all that will compete for a starting role, I'd be surprised. But at the same time, given the length of contracts that are on some of these guys, I wouldn't be surprised. I don't think that it would be in the first 2 or 3 picks that they spend in 2024. But if there's a linebacker somewhere in the 3rd round, I wouldn't be surprised if they grabbed one. I really wouldn't. They really did not address the defensive line with any high-profile players. They brought in right defensive end Justin Jones and nose tackle, what's his name? Kairis Tonga, who are listed as starters. They both combined to have 5 sacks in 2023. And their grades and field play shows me why that I feel that their depth at best on many other teams in the NFL. The current roster lists Bilal Nichols as the starting left defensive end. So I'm really not that impressed here with their defensive line. I think that the D-line needs a major upgrade, and I expect it in the draft. So as of right now, I expect them to add defensive line help, whether it's edge or interior, as well as a wide receiver or 2, and potentially a running back somewhere in the middle of the draft. Next up here is the cornerback, the DB room. So they added Sean Murphy-Bunting, who is an upgrade for what they already had, which is, they had Budda Baker, who's an average free safety at best. I mean, I know that he's got a name within the NFL, but when you look at his grades over the last few seasons, he's not maybe a top 30 in my opinion, but his play is about to get better though, I believe, because after these additions that they made with their linebacker, I think that, he's going to have an uptick in his performance, but also within the DB room, they adding Sean Murphy Bunting. I know he's an average DB, but he does elevate this room overall. Their strongest asset in the DB room is Jalen Thompson, who racked up 4 interceptions in 2023 and allowed a passer rate of 73.9. Forced a fumble, 1 sack, is great in coverage, has a positive overall grade of 71.3. They also added our guy, Starling Thomas, last season. He was a UDFA signing by the Detroit Lions to play left corner. So right now he is a starting left corner on this team. He didn't really have a great season though. I mean, it was actually kind of pathetic, but the entire team was suffering a bit last year. I feel that the Lions royally screwed up by letting Starling Thomas go and allowing the team to pick him up. Leaving Mosley on the active 53 when they could have put him on the reserve, inactive list for 4 weeks because he didn't come back until week 5 anyway. So we lost Thomas because of that. Thomas is going to turn into a pretty decent DB. I just think that he's going to need a little bit of time, but with all this playing time that he's getting right now, he's bending that curve quickly. He's going to get further, north than he will south in his, production soon. The Cardinals also have another Lions expat, Bobby Rice. Not real, impressed with him, but he's there. I'm expecting some sort of competition at left corner in 2024 with Starling Thomas before any, sort of a clear winner is set for this position. And I'm also kind of thinking they're probably going to go after a defensive back as well in the draft. I'm kind of meh here. I'm kind of thinking the Cardinals will address the DB room in the draft and try to find a starter on the left side over Starling. The Cardinals have 15 DBs on the roster right now. That's absolutely insane. What is, I guess to find a starting role, inside the draft, I think is going to be kind of tough depending on what they do with the first few picks. The Cardinals have a plethora of picks, like I've said, 27, 35, 66, 71, and 90, where they can definitely find 1, if not 2 major upgrades for the DB room, wide receiver, wherever, offensive line. They'll be able to address some needs. Overall, the roster still has Kyler Murray, Budda Baker, Trey McBride, James Conner, Jalen Thompson, Kazir White, and now Mac Wilson. They have a strong linebacker room, above average DBs, but they're about weak everywhere else. I expect the Cardinals, like I said, add a wide receiver, a cornerback, an edge rusher, and a starting left guard, with the potential to add a starting left tackle in this draft with the picks that they have between 4 and 90. That could definitely, provide some upgrades. So with that said, I think that the Lions win this game without a doubt right now. On paper, Lions win this game. We are a much better team than the Arizona Cardinals, but they are going to be a much better team by the end of this season. I guarantee it. Depending on how their GM drafts, I think that this team is getting set up to be a pretty solid team this season. I just don't think they're going to come anywhere close to what the Lions already have assembled. Even without the draft, we're a solid team. Even before free agency, we were a solid team, and we're only getting better. So, all right. Let me see what everyone's got to say here. Tracy says, I think it got a little bit tougher. Schedule was already tough before free agency, says Bucky. Jeff Berg says, I'm not worried about the schedule. They will be fine. Braylon Dennis, the Texans are going to be a pain in the ass. They will. They absolutely will. Carlos says, I saw your video last night on Kool-Aid or Chop would be a perfect picks if we stay at 29, in your opinion. So let me just clarify too, like when I put videos out like that, I feel like if there's an opportunity at 29 for Kool-Aid to be there, if he's still there, and depending on how the draft is going, I honestly don't think that Brad's going to stay at 29. I think that he's going to back off right now. I think he's going to try to add more draft capital in that sweet spot, because if he doesn't, we're not really going to have the greatest draft, in my opinion. I think that we're going to miss out on a lot of opportunity in the middle of that second round. We go from 29 to 61, and that's a huge loss of opportunity. It would really be smart if Brad could somehow get us a pick around pick 43, 44, 45, 46, somewhere in there, so that we can, find a really solid interior offensive lineman and a cornerback and a defensive end, with our first 3 picks, and potentially a wide receiver with our 4th pick, as long as it's within, pick 73. I think that we would still have a shot at a pretty decent wide receiver. If you want a really good one, you're going to have to pick them with a 2nd pick or before, which would be 61 or before. John Desage says Fields sucks. I'm glad the Bears got a sack of balls for him. They literally did. They said, "Here, you guys need some footballs. You need some pumps. What do you guys need for Justin Fields? We'll send over some Lysol, some cleaning wipes, and new plunger for your toilets. What else do you guys need? We'll fill up your pop machine. Remember the old joke back in the day in that one movie? Well, yeah, we'll fill up your pop machine forever." That was funny. Let's see here. J Mommy says, after a while, scripted plays won't go very far, since every team will kind of catch on. And let's see. There was another one in here I just saw. Here we go. King SJ, hey, how you doing, man? Glad you joined us tonight. Got a few extra new names in here. Josh in his bag says, we got worse based on free agency. I think our schedule got tougher. I don't think that we got worse as a team. I think that we improved. It's just these guys got to stay on the field. They got to make it to the field, and they got to stay there. J Mommy says, I feel better about Kool-Aid knowing that's just a nickname. Yeah. His grandmother gave him that nickname when he was born. It was kind of a moment, I guess. It stuck with him forever. Steve Hester is Leggett good at catching wounded ducks. I don't know who throws wounded ducks, man. Jared Goff is one of the best passers in the league. Every quarterback throws a bad ball or two, here or there. But he's one of the most accurate passers in the league. I mean, I think he's proven that time and time again. He just took a rookie tight end to almost 1,000 yards. And I don't think he had but one drop the whole season. And you look at what Amon-Ra St. Brown has done. I mean, ever since the last 6 games of 2021, I don't think that he's had but a couple of drops, over hundreds of targets. And typically when you got a quarterback that throws ducks and wobbly balls, you'll see a ton of drops. But what I see is focus drops. I'm not seeing, bad throw drops. I'm seeing focus drops, there's a big difference there. Yeah, he's thrown a couple of bad balls under pressure. Every quarterback does. Patrick Mahomes does. All of these quarterbacks do. So I'm not too worried about it. Let's move on to the Dallas Cowboys. So right now, Arizona Cardinals, I think the Lions are 1-0 on the road versus the Cardinals, depending on where that game ends up. I think that they win that one hands down. Dallas Cowboys. They didn't really do a ton, and I didn't really spend a whole lot of time on them because I hate the Cowboys. But they did add a pair of safeties that will blend well together. Brandon Jones, who grades out in the upper 70s, and 90 in the pass rush. Passer rating against is under 70, which is darn near elite. They also added PJ Locke, who is also graded out in the low 90s for pass rush and the mid 70s for run defense, but he lacks coverage skills. Together, though, I expect the back end of the Cowboys defense to play much better in 2024. They also brought in defensive tackle Malcolm Roach, who is more of a run-stuffing defensive tackle. I think what you're going to see here is our opponents, especially the NFC North, they are bringing people in to try to combat what other teams do well. It's tough when you have a team that can pass the ball well and run the ball well and disguise both of them, which the Lions can do. So I don't care what any of these teams try to do, honestly. I mean, we're still going to be able to do what we do. It's just now there's going to be better competition in front of us. So anyway, PJ Locke, he lacks coverage skills, but together, like I said, I think that this defense is going to play much better in 24. Bringing in defensive tackle Malcolm Roach, who is more of the run stuffing defensive tackle than anything. I think that added a little bit of depth on this team. Then they added a kicker, Will Lutz, a depth signing at wide receiver, Mike Burton, a depth signing at wide receiver, and then Mike Burton at fullback. So nothing real glamorous here. I mean, the Dallas Cowboys kind of, stuck on the sideline, if you will, didn't do a whole lot. The biggest thing with this team, though, is having to beat the damn refs. So every time we play the Cowboys, we have to beat the refs too. And here's my prediction right now. The Lions are going to smoke these Cowboys. I wouldn't even be surprised if a couple of tussles break out, a couple of fights break out. And I expect nothing less from the Lions to absolutely go in and crush this team by 20 points. That's what I'm expecting. I don't care who's on this team. The Lions are not walking out of Texas without a win. I guarantee it. And I'm going to be there. I guarantee it. And it's going to be a fun game, but it's time we exact our revenge on what happened to us last season in this game. And I really don't think that it's, fair that we're having to go to Dallas again. Like, come to Detroit. I dare you. Come to Detroit. Houston Texans. My goodness, this team is on a tear. So right now we're 2-0 on the road. 2-0 on the road. Houston Texans. Well, anything you guys got to say on Dallas Cowboys before I move on to the Texans? John Desage says the Lions need to prove that last year wasn't a fluke. Yeah, I don't think that there was any sort of a fluke to it, to be honest with you. I mean, if you think about what we did at the tail end of 2022, I mean, we didn't really change. Like, we are on this trajectory. About halfway through the season of 2022, we took off. Everything started to blend. Everything started to work together. And we never looked back. I mean, we went like, I don't know, what was it, 30 games in a row or something like that, where, I mean, we were playing really good ball. One of the best records in football over, like 30 games or whatever it was. That's right. Steve K's down there in Texas. We'll have to make sure that we work everything out before we get there. Will Scott, hey, how you doing, man? It's all right being late. At least you're in. Let's see. Lone Wolf says, Will, remember when playing the Cowboys, you have to add in the refs and Jerry's checkbook. You do. You do. I think that you need to spot the Cowboys at least 8 points in this game, because that's what the refs are going to affect. I know it's a weird number, but I think that 8 points is the number that you have to make sure that you get above or separate yourself. So if you don't win by 10, there's an opportunity that you could lose this game. And that's just because of these stupid refs. But I hope that Goodell is doing something about what happened last year. I think that we all know what happened. I mean, we've seen it. We've seen the proof. We reported the proof. We've made videos on the proof. It was viral for days. And I think that everybody was on the Lions side in this situation. Even some of the Cowboys fans were, coming to our rescue and saying that, hey, this wasn't right. So I haven't heard anything on Reynolds, but I've also had a busy day today. I honestly, the news that I was given 3-4 days ago or whatever said that if DPJ was signed, Reynolds would not be. If Reynolds was signed, DPJ would not be. So I think that the Lions are probably set on wide receivers before they hit the draft. I'm expecting that they're going to grab one in the draft. And I don't know that for sure as far as the draft, but I'm sure we'll get some better information as we get closer to the draft. Things will start to make a little bit more sense, and we'll be able to nail it down and hopefully have as good of a draft season as we did last year in our calls before and during the draft. Yeah, Houston is going to be a very, I mean, having to go to Texas twice, but Houston is going to be a very, very tough game. You know, it would almost be cool. Like, could you guys just schedule both those games back to back so we can just go to Texas and stay there for like 2 weeks? You know, like the team, that way they don't got to travel, just go to Texas, stay there, practice there, get the games done, go home. That won't happen. Braylon, why do you keep retracting your messages? What are you doing? All right. So anyway, let's get on to the Texans here, man. This is a tough team. This is a really tough team. The Texans were already going to be a scary option as they got better in a hurry last season. On a show prior to this season, though, I said that the Texans would be the breakout team of 2023, and they certainly were. They were kind of my dark horse team to have a really great draft and hit the ground running. I said whoever was going to, take CJ Stroud, they were going to get the best quarterback out of the draft, and they did. Now entering season 2 with CJ Stroud, one would expect they're only going to get better. He popped off as a rookie. It's hard to follow that up. Some of that could be beginner's luck, but I'm just not getting that feeling from CJ Stroud. I think that he is a really, really good quarterback. Now they may have had their best free agency of any team. I mean, this is absolutely insane what they just pulled off. They went from a pretty solid defensive line with Will Anderson, playing as well as he did last season as a rookie, to no-brainer, the best defensive line in football. It's now complete with Danico Autry, Danielle Hunter, and Will Anderson, coupled with solid linebacker play. Matter of fact, the entire room, where they just added Azeez Al-Shaair alongside Christian Harris, added in 2022. And they also have 2 guys that they're developing, Henry Tutu and Jake Hansen. Now, Henry Tutu, I expected more from him. He's kind of slow to put it together, but he's a darn good linebacker too. Now, they didn't stop there. Nope, they decided that there was a major hole in the DB room. So they brought in 3 corners, including one of our expats in Jeff Okudah. They re-signed Desmond King and a strong safety, Eric Murray. Now, none of these guys are really shut down, but it is a better than average room that is going to play at a much higher level when you're playing behind Danico Autry, Danielle Hunter, and Will Anderson, and Azeez Al-Shaair. I mean, who wouldn't want to play behind those guys? These DBs could probably be the worst in the NFL, and they're going to play like some of the best just because they're going to have really strong defensive line play. On the offensive side of the ball, they added Dalton Schultz, who had a really solid 2023 campaign with 635 yards, 5 TDs, 102 passer rating when targeted. So this gives Stroud not only a competent tight end, but a veteran leader, veteran tight end, and someone that can teach, the younger guy that they drafted last year, Brevin Jordan, who also has an insane 148 passer rating when targeted. Now, he didn't have the amazing season last year that you would have expected, but his grades are off the charts. And when Schultz is now added to the mix, this offense gets even more dangerous than it was. Now when you throw in Joe Mixon into that conversation, over 1,000 yards, 1,034 to be exact, 9 TDs, 0 fumbles, 31 forced missed tackles, 27 explosive plays over 10 plus yards. This team just got really, really good. And they haven't even been to the draft yet. And they've got, a bevy of picks, or at least they did before free agency. I forgot to write it down. This team is this team's going to be tough, like real tough. And I'm sorry, but I've got to say it. I think the Lions are now 2-1 on the road. I think that if we're going to lose a game on the road this early, or in the process here, to a non-divisional team, it's going to be the Texans. Out of all the teams that I'm seeing here, you've got the Texans, and we'll get to the 49ers too. But I think if we're going to lose a game to a non-divisional opponent, it's going to be the Texans because they're that damn good. And it depends on when we play them too. Hopefully we play them earlier in the season, not later in the season. So Texans have, or at least had, come on now, where'd the picks go? They have no first round pick, but they have 2 seconds, a third, 2 fourths, a sixth, and 3 sevenths. 3 7-round picks. So they could probably package up all those 7-round picks and a sixth and move up into the fourth, or maybe even the back end of the third, and then have 2 seconds, 2 thirds, and 2 fourths, which I wouldn't be mad at. I would love to have a bunch of 2nd-round picks in this draft. I think the first round in this draft is highly overrated after pick probably 15. I think it's going to be overrated, just like it was last year. It was terrible after pick 15-ish, 14-ish, somewhere in there. So what's everyone got to say about the Texans? You guys nervous about this game? Because I know I am. This is a game that I want to be at. I really want to be at this game. Braylon Dennis wants Reynolds back. I do too. I mean, I think that, he obviously provides a lot of veteran leadership on this team. And, given the fact that he only dropped a couple of balls the entire season, I'm not going to punish him, like you guys have heard me say, just because of the NFC title game, the way it went. I'm not going to punish him for that. I think that he's a much better receiver than what that game, ended up showing us. All the other games that he helped us win during the season to get us to that point have to account for something, right? Brett, I don't know when the Texans are. We don't have a schedule yet. We won't have a schedule, I don't believe, for a while. We know the opponents, but I don't know when we play these guys yet. Stroud definitely, Will Scott's point, Stroud plays with ice in his veins, never looks to be under any pressure. And Will, shout out to you, man. Hope your wife is doing well. I know it was a while back when we met, but hopefully everybody's, doing well now. Lauren McQuaig says Darius Robinson, defensive line, 6'5", 285, 4.95 40, 8 sacks in 12 games. ESPN projects Robinson to go in the 2nd round, number 38. So there's that meat of the draft, 35 to 50. Get rid of pick 29, move back to 36, add a pick 45, a pick 50, somewhere, and then you can snake Robinson, grab another corner, grab a wide receiver at 61, and an offensive lineman at 73. Bang. Draft's done. We'd be all set. Now you can obviously add some more depth after that, but that's where I'm at with it. Yeah, I hear you on Danielle Hunter, but we would have had to have paid him at least $30 million because of the tax breaks in Texas, not being a tax state. That's why he went there. He saved a ton of money, like millions of dollars. Will Scott says, we don't know how our defense is going to look after or before I give Houston a dub. What? Brett Rudsill says that we beat the Texans. So let me see how we doing in this poll up here. The question was based on free agency. Where do the Lions finish the regular season wins? 10-7 or better, 8-9 or worse, 9-8, 17-0 undefeated. At least some of you voted undefeated. That is true loyalty, not realistic, but true loyalty. I'm hoping that the Lions can do 10-7 or better. This is why I'm doing this. This is why I'm going over these games in the free agency, and I'll probably touch on it lightly again after the draft. But right now we're seeing a team, like in the Texans, that there is no reason on paper why they are not one of the last teams standing. Probably one of the last 4 or 6 teams standing by the end of this season. I wouldn't be surprised one bit. Matter of fact, I wouldn't even be surprised if they won the Super Bowl. And I'm not saying that the Lions can't get there, but I'm just saying that I think that the Texans are going to be that good and they're going to be that difficult to stop on both sides of the ball if they can stay healthy. So 10-7 or better, 90% of you believe that the Lions will be there, 143 votes. Tracy thinks that we're going to get 13 wins this year. 13's, you must be the only one that has a lucky 13. Mike P says the draft moving down and still pick all we need would be sweet. And that I believe that. I believe it's possible. Brett, $5 super chat. Thank you, my man. Says, I see the Lions winning 13 games minimum. I think that's a great number to have. Let's improve again this year. I would love to see them improve at least by one more game and get that number 1 seed. If we would have had the number 1 seed this year, there ain't no stopping us to the Super Bowl. There's no way. You cannot stop us at home. We are going to be the next Lambeau in the NFC North, where we're not going to lose games at home. I'm there. I shouldn't do this, but until I know how the regular season is going to, play out with the schedule, I don't think that we're going to lose any games at home this year. I really don't. I think that our season is going to be won on the road. And last year we won a large majority of our away games. And I think we won every single primetime game except for one, maybe. Did I get that wrong? Did we win all of them? I know we were bumped, in one of the last games of the season, but I think we lost one. I'm getting too old, man. Memory doesn't last more than a few months now, it seems like. Bruce Morton, who are you talking about? Whose defense? Our defense is going to be solid. Our defense was solid before. It's just we got to tie up the back end of this defense. All right, so let's move on to the Colts. But overall, where do you guys see the Houston Texans ending up this year? Do you see the Houston Texans being one of the final teams standing, in the playoffs? Are they going to make an NFC title game appearance or an AFC title game appearance? I'm trying to see. I can't remember who's in their conference. I'm having a brain fart. Or in their division, I mean. AFC South. So they got, is it Tennessee, Colts, Texans, and Jags? That's an easy division. Easy division. Yeah, we can't lose on Thanksgiving. Can't do it. Can't do it this year. We've got to break that. That's like the last curse. We can't lose on Thanksgiving this year. Cannot do it. Yeah, I see them winning their division. There's something else that I'm going to share at the end of this that I noticed, and I'm just going to put it out there now. The guys that we're bringing in free agency, where did they come from? I'll let you think about that, and we'll come back to it. Where did they come from and why it makes sense? And it makes more sense. And it's just another thing that I'm going to be watching Brad Holmes do and see where he, starts grabbing all of our free agents every year and see if there's going to be any sort of a rhythm to it from year to year. So Houston Texans, they got way better. They're going to be one of the toughest teams, I believe, in the league. Next up is Indianapolis Colts. So right now on the road, I have us 2-1 because I believe that the Texans are going to be a very tough team. And until I see what we get in the draft, I've got us 2-1 right now on the road. Indianapolis Colts, right away, the Colts upgraded the wide receiver room, adding Michael Pittman grades out in the upper 70s to the low 80s. Very solid receiver, game changer with the right team. Not so sure that team is the Colts, though. He had 1,152 yards last season. Only 4 TDs, though. 5 drops and a low passer rating on target of 86.9. Adding him to the room, though, with Alec Pierce and Josh Downs is exactly what the Colts needed. They needed someone to elevate this room. They also upgraded the defensive line, adding Grover Stewart, a 7-year vet, has solid grades in the mid-70s, more of a run-stuffing defensive tackle, only had 1 sack in 2023, but he produced 24 stops on 8 hurries. They also added Zaire Franklin, and with Grover Stewart, this could be a great match made in heaven between these two guys on this defense. Franklin may not grade out the best, but he is a run-stuffing machine. This guy had 54 stops in 2023. He added 2 sacks, forced 2 fumbles. He's kind of marginal at best in coverage. Missed 25 tackles, though. That's the biggest downfall for this guy, is he just can't seem to wrap up and keep them wrapped up. You gotta wrap them up. You know, you can't just hit these guys. You got to wrap them up and drive them into the ground. They also added an edge rusher, Tyquan Lewis, to the mix. He also adds another dynamic to this revamped defense. He produced 17 stops, 5 sacks, 31 hurries, 8 hits for 44 pressures, which makes these 3 additions a very nice trio of playmakers that can really feed off each other. And that's, you know, what most GMs are trying to do, right? They're trying to pluck and pull guys, trying to match them up. You know, what do you do well? What do you do well? What do you do well? And try to put all of these keys together and all of those skill sets together so that they can produce something that's much bigger than all of them combined. I do believe that the Colts are going to be improved this year. Absolutely. I mean, they also added, or went one step further, I guess I should say, and added a really good corner in Kenny Moore. Again, I didn't even know Kenny Moore was available this year. I don't know how I missed that, but he grades out in the mid to upper 70s. He's not quite elite shutdown, but I would assume that with the upgraded personnel again on the defensive line, that he will be able to perform just fine. Lastly, they added old man Flacco, Joe Flacco, to the quarterback room to help mentor Anthony Richardson. Now, the big problem here with Anthony Richardson is he doesn't protect himself. He puts himself in bad situations. He gets hurt too often. Last year, I think he got hurt 3 times and then he was out. And that's because he's just not playing smart football. So I hope that he's learning a lot this offseason, you know, watching a lot of tape of himself and what not to do. And he'll probably be just fine. The guy's got a cannon for an arm, and he's got to be able to put himself in a position to use it. And instead of putting himself in a position of getting taken out every other play. Lastly, they added a punter and a couple of depth signings like defensive end Jannard Avery. Overall, my feeling is this: defense and offense got a little bit better. Not as worried about the Colts, to be honest with you, as I am any other team that I've spoken about. Depending on who they add in the draft, could change that. Now they have a first round number 15 overall, a second round number 46. I mean, those are the picks that I would want in this draft. Absolutely. That's like the exact picks that I think the Lions need to somehow try to get. They have a third round number 82, a fourth round 116, fifth round 150, sixth round 190, and a seventh round 234. So they're going to be right in the mix to grab some really, really good talent and day one starters on both sides of the ball. And more than likely with their first 2 picks should be day one starters. And it was a little bit of a short, review here of the Indianapolis Colts, but there's just not a whole lot going on with this team right now. But I'm going to call this a win. Lions are 3-1 on the road. Absolutely believe that this is a game that we should manhandle pretty easily until we see what happens in the draft. We'll come back and update it, a week or so after the draft and see where everybody ends up. Braylon Dennis, we played Buffalo this year. Let me take a look. If we do, it would be at home. And we do have Buffalo at home, Tampa at home, Titans at home, Jags at home, Hawks at home, Rams at home, and then, of course, the 3 knuckleheads in the NFC North will be at home. Lastly here, we have San Francisco 49ers. Now, this is a team that I think got a little worse in the offseason so far. And I think it starts right up front with them addressing some needs. Before I go any further, what do you guys think on Indy? Win or lose? Let me know either in the chat or a comment. Lions win, Lions lose versus the Colts. Right now, I've got us 3-1 on the road. John Doe, yeah, I saw that. I like the way you spelled John Doe there. Colts rumor to get Snead is just a rumor. There is absolutely nothing going on with that news, though. Matter of fact, I believe someone inside the Colts organization completely stalwarted it and said, no, there's zero going on there. That's right, Braylon. We do play the Niners, and we play them back in San Francisco. So the Niners address some needs after losing or potentially losing Chase Young. Chase Young's not signed yet, has not been back to the 49ers, which is surprising, or not, because the guy has some major character issues and potentially some motor issues. He gives up on plays. So finding a bookend to Nick Bosa was obviously going to be their first choice, which they added defensive end Leonard Floyd, veteran defensive end Leonard Floyd. Floyd has kind of been relegated to a rotational role with the Buffalo Bills. He is one of the better edge defenders in the league, though. He's been on some pretty solid teams, though, with a lot of help the last few seasons. In 2023, he racked up 12 sacks, 22 hurries, 41 pressures, and only played about 50% of the snaps. So that's about as good as it gets. You know, if he were to increase his role to 60, 70, 80%, this guy can really help change the game, and he can have the same or similar production to somebody like a Chase Young, without a doubt. It can, be just as effective as a Chase Young. They just go about it 2 different ways. Now, his grades are in the mid 60s by PFF, which doesn't really make sense to me. Sometimes I believe PFF must be smoking too much, because you can have identical players, identical stats, and totally different grades. It doesn't make any sense. Majority of their stuff kind of gives you a really good guide, and that's really all it is. The tape tells us everything. So mid 60s by PFF, I don't believe that it really shows the quality production that Leonard Floyd produces. And how quality he is, as a player, even at the age that he's at right now, as a veteran leader for the Niners. I think that he'll have a pretty big impact here in 2024. Stephen Gilmore rumored to join the Vikings. I haven't heard that one yet. I'll look that one up after the show. So another depth signing. They went out and added another edge right away. Young veteran. Yetter Gross-Matos, who played about 1/3 of the defensive snaps last season as a rotational player. So as you can see, they grabbed 2 rotational players, right? You keep putting fresh legs in the game. I'm not real sure that the Niners are expecting growth out of Matos this year. He's entering, kind of his second phase of his career. Maybe they're expecting growth, but Matos hasn't done a whole lot yet. He'll be in about his 5th year in the NFL, and he still has a long way to go to being a very productive player. From the Browns, they added another defensive lineman, Jordan Elliott, who really hasn't popped off yet in the league. Hasn't really done a whole lot. And he's another rotational player. He only played about 20% of the snaps in 2023. Obviously playing with or next to Myles Garrett has its perks. And, I believe that this signing is to help kind of replace the loss of Eric Armstead. They also lost Cleveland Farrell and Javon Kinlaw in free agency, which are big time losses for the 49ers. So imagine, if they're losing Chase Young too, that's Chase Young, Eric Armstead, and Javon Kinlaw. And then they've got another guy that's coming back from, ACL surgery. So, and he won't be back till 2025, more than likely. The Niners also added Devondre Campbell, an all-pro in 2021, but he's also 30 years old. He had a pass rush rating of 129.5. I'm sorry, passer rating against of 129.5 and a 10% missed tackle rate. This is not really a splashy replacement for anyone. Obviously, they are expecting Greenlaw to come back, from that ACL at some point, but that was, like I said, it was suffered in the Super Bowl. So he's not playing this year. There's no way this guy is playing in 2024. And if he does, that would be absolutely incredible. That's typically a 11, 12 month rehab. Even if you can get it done in 10 months, you'd be hard pressed to come back. Lastly, on the D line, they added Cowboys veteran defensive tackle Malik Collins. He played in roughly 2/3 of the snaps in 2023. He had a pretty productive season, 7 sacks, 26 hurries, 12 quarterback hits with 45 quarterback pressures. 49ers also signed Isaac Yiadom. He's a 28-year-old corner, has been a journeyman with really unspectacular results with the Denver Broncos, New York Giants, Green Bay Packers, and the Houston Texans. He did register a productive 2023 season with the Saints, started the final 7 games of the season, delivered a Pro Football Focus coverage grade of 80.4, which ranked 16th of qualifying corners. Now, the 49ers did one dirty. They went and added one of our guys. They're probably trying to figure out what we're doing. And Chase Lucas tucked tail and ran all the way over to the West Coast. So Chase Lucas is now signed on a 1-year deal with the 49ers. Finally, the Niners were looking for help on the offensive line by adding right tackle Colton McKivitz, a young veteran, 4 years experience, playing in over 1,000 snaps in 2023. Only graded out in the mid-60s overall, but he only had 2 penalties, but he gave up 9 sacks, giving up 47 pressures. So did the Niners get better? I'm not so sure that they did. Matter of fact, they added a few younger veterans that haven't done a whole lot, if anything, in the NFL. Leonard Floyd is probably the best signing they added by far. And the Niners need help on the offensive line. Otherwise, Brock Purdy is going to get the snot kicked out of him. And the DB room, it's got some holes. I think that they're going to be looking to add a defensive edge rusher as they, only handed out, 2-year deals to everybody, which I found interesting. And depending on what the Niners do in the draft, like I said, I will reevaluate this after the draft. I expect the Lions to exact that revenge on this team and completely beat the brakes off the Niners. I don't ever want to hear bang, bang, Niner anything ever again. I really want to walk in there and smack the snot out of these guys, along with the Cowboys. Like, I want those to be the 2 biggest victories of the season. It angers me a little bit that we lost that game the way that we did. Here's my biggest takeaway of the day. The Bang Bang Niner gang ain't making it back to the playoffs in 2024. Yep, I said it, and they ain't doing it. They aren't making it back. They're going to be held out. They're going to have a terrible season. So that's it for my review on all the away games that we're going to play. And it does not include the 3 games against the Packers, the Bears, or the Vikings. I plan on doing the NFC North kind of, on its own, in its own segment, probably in one of the next few shows. So overall, here's what we got. The Lions are going to be 4-1 against all of these teams. That's what I have. I don't think it's 5-0. I think that if we were to squeeze 4-1, even 3-2 out of this away stretch, I think that we'll be just fine. I don't think that we're going to lose a game on the road in the NFC North. So that's a little tidbit for you when I do cover the NFC North away games. I don't think that we're going to lose. I really don't. I think that the Bears are going to be trying to figure out, a new quarterback, new system. I don't believe that Caleb Williams is going to jump out the box like CJ Stroud. The Vikings are in shambles. They're going to need a quarterback and look, they don't have anybody. Sam Darnold, yeah, he can spin the ball, but I don't think that he's as good of a game manager as anybody else in the league. So for that reason, I don't see it happening. I don't think that Jefferson is going to have this great season. He does not have an elite, quarterback throwing him the ball. Sam Darnold can throw the ball. Don't get me wrong, but I just don't see it happening. They also don't have Danielle Hunter, and they didn't replace him very well. But I know I'm getting ahead of myself because I'm giving you the keys. And yeah, the Bears O-line is trash. Like, what was Poles thinking? So he better draft a lot of offensive linemen to protect his new quarterback, or he's going to get him killed. So anyway, we got one loss coming to us out of these 5 games is what I think. And I think the Texans are the hardest team to play. I think the San Francisco 49ers are not going to make the playoffs in 2024. And I think the Cowboys are in for a rough season. Right now, Dak is under scrutiny for, alleged interactions with a young lady. And we'll see what happens, from that. I firmly will say that they're completely alleging that Jerry's got his hands in that deal. He doesn't want to pay Dak $60 million this year. But anyway, yeah, Cowboys always got something going on, man. That team is always in some sort of trouble somewhere. Shout out to Donovan Amos. He wanted to remind me of the phone lines. So he gave us $1.99 super chat. I owe somebody else that gave us a super chat earlier. Mr. Brett Rudesill. Here you go, Brett.
Oh my Detroit, God. Stand up. You've waited for this. One proud nation, stand up. You've waited for this.
And Donovan Amos. I don't even know which ones I have up here. Let me pull them up real quick.
Intercepted. Coming back the other way. Ifatu Melifonwu. This is going to be over. Lions are going to win it. Lions are bringing the NFC North title back to Detroit.
All right. So what did you guys think of the coverage here on do you guys like shows like this, kind of not covering the Lions, but about the Lions, trying to paint a picture about the season is what I'm trying to do, trying to give us as much information about not only our team, but, our competition. When I started this last year, I did a really deep dive into our opponent every week. And they were 2-hour shows of really going hard at the stats. I would outline the defense that they play, where the holes were. And I think that we had really good success in the beginning of the season with a lot of the calls we made and, calling whether it was interceptions or how many yards we'd get on the ground or, the top performers, of the day. I think we did pretty good. And a lot of that comes from research, but I don't want it to get too boring, I guess. But if you guys like this kind of stuff, we'll keep it rolling. It's not going to be all the time. It'll just be, as we have situations like this, you got the free agency. How are we doing? So, all right, let's get these phone lines open. I think Donovan Amos has something to say. Let's hear what he has to say. Let me pop the number, and you guys can save the number, in your phone or whatever. Now, it's only on during the shows. Sometimes it's on 9 to 5 during the day for business hours, but usually I try to use it just for that. But 313-312-0348 if you guys want to call. Remember, I take one at a time. I'm not using a switchboard. I will try to get that set up before the draft and get it tested before the draft so I know how to use it. That way we can, on these 4-hour shows, we'll be able to take multiple callers and put people on hold and kind of go through it, every 3 minutes or so. So phone lines open. At the end of the day, here's what I'm thinking about these Lions, man. The more I dig into this, the more I dig into free agency and what we've done so far. And I do want to clarify a couple of things. The video that I did, I was talking about Amik Robertson. The video that I did on Kool-Aid and talking about Amik Robertson. He is a slot corner. And I know he can play outside. Hold on one second. Hey, this is Will with Rockdown Podcast Network. Who do I have on the line?
Donovan, what's good?
Hey, Donovan, give me 1 second, okay?
Got you.
All right. All right, so Kool-Aid, when I was talking about Kool-Aid, I was also talking about Amik Robertson. Now, he's a slot corner. He can play outside. He did get a lot of reps on the outside. But he's not coming in, from what I understand, he's not coming in to take Cam Sutton's job. And Davis obviously is going to be on the left or the right side, but he usually plays the left side. So that means that Robertson would have to be, on the right side taking Cam's job. So, and I'll come back and clarify a couple of other things. There's a few things that I noticed in comments the people were talking about, and I want to talk about that tonight too. So let's bring in Donovan. Donovan, all right, you're with us, buddy. How you doing tonight?
Good. How about you?
I'm doing good, man. So what did you think about the information tonight? What do you think about the teams that we're going up against on the road? And where do you see the Detroit Lions having some success this year?
I think it's gonna be hard for us to lose. I think the Texans overrated though.
Ooh.
They just want free agency. That's it.
So you think that they won March and not December?
Nope. I think one of them players don't get injured and they gonna look stupid. So
I don't know, man. They're pretty deep, dude. Even if they lost one, they still got 3 or 4 more right behind them. That's the problem.
It's just really their defensive line. We got the best O-line in football. I'm not too much worried.
Well, last year we had the best O-line. Now we're missing Jonah Jackson, and you've heard me talking about it. We got a caller calling in. Do me a favor and wait till Donovan gets off, and then you can call back and we'll bring you in. We only do one at a time. I appreciate you calling though. Just wait a few minutes for us. So we're missing Jonah Jackson, and this offensive line is going to have some work to get back to taking over that, top 3 spot in the NFL. So do you think that the Lions do you think that we're going to take an offensive lineman really early?
They got to do it inside the top 100. I think Mason McCormick is good for the scheme.
Oh yeah.
I think we in great shape in the draft. Ain't even came yet. I think Carlton Davis is going to be our number 1 corner, and Amik Robertson is going to beat out Cam Sutton for the number 2 spot. I just just by watching the film, I just see that Amik Robinson got the fundamentals better than Cam Sutton, and just overall a better player. I think any corner that we bring in is going to be better than Cam Sutton, to be honest.
That's some spicy rice, man. Like that's some spicy rice right there. Now I love it. I love the take because I told you I was giving Cam a pass. I'm giving him a pass for last year because our defensive line was not where it is this year.
But the thing is, people like to say, "Oh, Cam Sutton was good in Pittsburgh, but he put up the same stats." I looked at his stats in Pittsburgh. He put up the same stats. 6 pass deflections every year. You
know what's funny about that? Pittsburgh did not have like some great defensive line either. Like to your point, when people say that he was good at Pittsburgh, he didn't have a great defensive line. It's not like he had all day or didn't have, to protect all day. But they didn't have the greatest defensive line. And I don't think that Cam was even a number 1 over at Pittsburgh, was he?
I will hope not.
Now you got me wondering. I don't think that he was. So you think that the Lions are going to be able to beat up on the Texans? You think the Texans are going to, potentially have some injury issues? But let's say that they all stay healthy. I don't want to wish anybody any ill will. Let's say they all stay healthy. Depending on where we play this team, beginning, middle, end of the season, you think that the Lions, as we are right now, without even hitting the draft, can go in and take down the Texans with that defensive front?
If we had our guard, we still got one more guard, but definitely after the draft, I always felt like Daniil Hunter was kind of overrated too. He ain't really had no success against us like that.
Yeah,
he got one sack in the 2 games.
Yeah, and that's because he's going up against top offensive linemen. So the question is, how is he against mid-tier offensive linemen? Obviously, against trash offensive linemen, he's having good games, and that's the biggest question on any player. You have to look at the quality. And I'm not even going to say what I want to say right now because you guys will all hate me, but you have to look at the quality of your opponent. And if you're going up against, bottom ranked offensive line and you're having really good games, I think that tells you something. And then if you go up against a good offensive line and you have a bad game, I think that's the defining moment of how good that player really is or isn't. Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think even if we have some injuries, I feel like we still gonna be able to make a run as long as we stick to the grit culture.
Mm-hmm.
We keep the offense good. I think we can still make a run even if our players get injured.
Look, our offense is going to be fine. I mean, I don't think that Sam Laporta is going to have a almost another 1,000-yard season. I would be very surprised if he does. But we have not even seen the tip of the iceberg of JAHMYR GIBBS. And as long as he stays healthy this year, I think that we're going to see an incredible breakout year from JAHMYR GIBBS. I really do. That guy, he really
got to work on.
Go ahead.
He got to work on staying calm, staying control with the ball.
Yeah. So last
rookie year, so I'm not really worried. But
yeah, so last year, first 3 or 4 games, I was saying, man, he looks like he's rushing it a little bit too much. And the issue with being a running back as quick as JAHMYR is sometimes he was hitting the holes a little bit too early. He had to learn, how to mesh with the offensive line. I mean, they have to move in symmetry together. The holes got to open at the right time that you're passing through it. And you've got to be able to read, right away. I mean, you're talking fractions of a second. Is that offensive lineman struggling with, his block? And do I got to go a different way? I mean, it all happens in, blinks of an eye or less, right? And then at the tail end of the season, Dan Campbell confirmed it. He said that JAHMYR GIBBS needed to learn some patience. He was overrunning his blocks. But as you saw JAHMYR GIBBS settle in, oh my goodness, the sky is the limit for this guy. Like, he's going to be very fun to watch in 2024.
He is. And Josh Reynolds, man, I just don't think Josh Reynolds is a wide receiver 3 on the championship team. I feel like he'd be good on the team with no playoff aspirations, but as far as the wide receiver 3 on the playoff team, I just don't see that for him. And it looked like they moving on from every free agent who costed us that championship game, like Kendall Gildor, CJ GJ. And speaking of CJ GJ, he was opposed to like the shit that he was saying. It sounded nice, but I just feel like he was an imposter.
Yeah,
I know good when I see it, and he wasn't a fit for us. I tried to look past when he said that stuff about the rotation.
Yeah,
I tried to look past it, but his ego was bigger than the team.
That's a good point. I mean, I think that CJ Gardner was brought in for a few reasons. I mean, 1, he knows the defense really well. 2, I mean, he does play at a pretty high level when he's healthy. And 3, he is a vocal motivator. I think that's why he was kind of brought in, to give this team some energy, but he he's not a top safety in the league. I don't care what he did in 2022. I don't care that he had 6 interceptions in 2022 because we watched Amani Oruwariye have 6 interceptions in 2020, gets a bag, and then completely craps the bed the rest of his career. So one good season doesn't define you. You've got to have continued repetition, season in, season out, and be consistent. That's why guys like Penei Sewell, Amon-Ra St. Brown, that's why these guys are elite at what they do, because they're consistent. And they don't really need to talk about it, even though Amon-Ra likes to talk. Penei Sewell is all about head down, focus forward, get my job done, get in, get out, go home, do it again the next day. Those are the kinds of guys I think Brad and Dan are looking for. And I think CJ GJ was kind of that outlier, the one you could get away with on the team to help spark the team when you needed it. You know what I mean? The energy guy.
Yeah. Yeah. I just he truly thought his ego was bigger than the team.
Yeah.
And I don't mind the trash talk, but it's the way to do it. I feel like you don't follow another grown man on the field and bump him like that. That's gay. That's gay to me. You just lock in and do your job. I don't know why he had to do that. Why it was necessary for him to do that.
Right. So here's the other thing.
Bump Debo.
That's because
It
Debo and him.
He was focused on.
No, go ahead.
He was focused on Debo Samuel more than the championship game.
Yeah.
He cared about Debo Samuel more than the NFC championship game.
That's because they were jaw-jacking at each other all week, and it started in the very beginning of the season. And when Debo started to go off, that's when CJ Gardner had, felt some type of way and and cost us 15 yards. It was totally pointless. And, the thing you mentioned about Josh Reynolds not being wide receiver 3. So right now we have, Amon-Ra St. Brown, who is our bread and butter. We have Khalif Raymond behind him. Jameson Williams would really be our number 2 right now. Should be what is considered the number 1 X wide receiver, is supposed to be Jameson Williams, but I don't think that he's ready for that. So you've got Amon-Ra. Your next veteran leader in the wide receiver room is Khalif Raymond. And then you have Jameson Williams. And now you have DPJ. Who I believe is going to take a giant step this year. And I'm so happy that they brought him back, because he is a younger version of what Josh Reynolds started his career like, but he's even more aggressive. And the guy that really needs to step up is Antoine Green. I do believe that he has some potential. I think that he has some downfield big play potential. And I think that he could. I
saw him play with Drake May.
Yep. He could have an interesting season. So I do believe that our wide receiver room is pretty good. I just think that we're one bulldog short. I really do. I think that we're just one guy short.
Reynolds is not no wide receiver 2 or 3 on no championship team. I just don't think that. And it was funny today because I was looking at, I watched the Raiders versus the Lions game today because I wanted to watch tape on Amik Robinson, and I saw Josh Reynolds caught the ball, but he fumbled it, and that happened. I was like, that just added to the case even more. It was he caught the ball, and then when they tackled him, he literally fumbled. He just not no big game wide receiver. And I think you go in the draft, you get somebody cheaper who you can get more years out of, and let it be that.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I think that the benefit, and you got to look at it from a couple of different ways. I mean, you don't have to, but this is what I would say is that sometimes you have guys on the team that maybe they're not there to be producers, which Josh Reynolds. He's good for 500 yards, every year. Sometimes you have guys on that team that can help lead, direct, educate the rest of the team, the rest of the wide receiver room to be a good leader and someone that can explain the offense to them all day long, which he can do because he's been working with Jared Goff for more than 6 years now, 7 years, 8 years, whatever it's been. They've been, connected since day one that Jared Goff got into this league. So he knows the quarterback And when Jared Goff likes something done a certain way, instead of always bothering a coach or always bothering Jared Goff, you have a wide receiver right there that can educate you the exact way that it needs to be done. And I'll be totally honest. Josh Reynolds runs perfect routes for Jared Goff. Perfect. He dropped the ball. I get it. He only had, 3 drops the entire season?
He had the second most drops on his team behind Amon-Ra. I looked that up. He did.
I'm trying to find it right now. I want to say he only had 3 drops. Now Sam Laporta had at least 3 drops.
But Sam Laporta is a rookie.
Yeah, but he's also
Josh
a
Reynolds
professional.
been on 2 playoff teams.
Hold on here. Let's see how many drops he had.
I think Josh Reynolds has peaked.
Oh, he's definitely on the backside of his career. I mean, he's been in the league a long time. Anyone that lasts longer than 3 years is done an excellent job. I am not finding his drops for some reason. So he has a 4.7% drop rate. 4.7. And the league average, what do you think the league average is? Do you think it's higher or lower than 4.7?
I'm going to say lower.
It is higher. 6.7%. So, I mean, he had a critical drop or 2. He also had some pretty critical catches that helped us win some games. I'm not going to defend him all day long. I do believe that he would have been a nice addition on this team, but the information that I was given said that if DPJ is signed, Josh will not be. If Josh was signed, DPJ would not be. So I think that we're probably going to enter the season without him, but that still doesn't leave an outside chance that he doesn't come back on an inexpensive deal. And for that reason, I think he's good to have, as a depth piece and someone that's got to earn his way, into that third or second, position, on the depth chart. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, but I think $6 million for a depth piece. And I also think they should have signed DPJ to more than a 1-year deal, because the upside is crazy. And he only 25. That seems like a guy you can sign to a 2 or 3 year deal.
Well, DPJ
and they need to extend Carlton Davis.
Yeah. So DPJ is young.
To extend him so we can get some.
Go ahead.
I was saying they need to extend Carlton Davis so we can get some stability on his team.
Well, I think that we need to see what Carlton Davis is going to do. I mean, the biggest knock on Carlton Davis is that he's missed 23% of the regular season games. Now, he's played in every playoff game, I think 9, but he's missed 23 of 99 regular season games in 6 seasons. So the biggest knock on him is that he misses, a quarter of every season. And they got to see what they have in Carlton. If he can suit up and play an entire season, he is open to an extension, like he said during his press conference. And it would be smart if they did extend him and add another year and reduce his cap hit and all that good jazz. But
yeah, but
you got to see what you got first.
You don't want the market to reset again. No, you got him at $14 million. I saw him go against number 1 wide receivers in our division. His cap hit is $14 million right now.
Yeah,
I think they need to extend him 2 more years. And he's only 27.
Hold on one second. Steve K, I don't know where you got that info from. The information that I'm looking at here says it's a 4.7. He dropped 3 passes on 64 targets during the regular season of 2023. 4.7% per next gen stats. That's what I got.
Yeah, he had like 14 targets in the postseason too.
Yeah, whatever it was. Yeah. So, I mean, at any rate, he was the tallest wide receiver we had outside of Antoine Green. So the Lions, I believe, are still looking for a big body wide receiver. He was 6'3", 196. I think that's where, Brendan Rice, Xavier Legette comes into play. I mean, there's other, they got the guy from North Carolina. I do like him, and I can't remember his last name right now. There's some options in the middle of this draft. I think that you're going to have to get them before pick 65 if you're going to have a chance at any one of those guys. And I think it'd be great for the Lions to continue to play what I call roster roulette, which is you're adding, another potential starting number one wide receiver to this team before you extend Amon-Ra St. Brown, and before you add a defensive end to this team before you extend Aiden Hutchinson. You add another defensive tackle to this team before you extend Ali McNeil. That's just how you play the game. So you've always got a high profile player in the bucket, in the funnel, dropping out of the funnel just in case A, you can't get a deal done, B, it's too rich for your blood, or C, you just don't feel like paying the guy and you want to continue building your team. So I think that they're doing it right. I know that a lot of people want some higher profile players on this team, but I think that we're fine. I think that we have a good core. And I mean, shoot, look what we did last year with less. And now we have more.
Yeah.
So
if I was Brad Holmes in the draft, I would trade out of the first round, and I think you go get your defensive edge with the first pick. Say if what's that guy named Chop Darius Robinson.
Yeah, Darius.
There you go get him, and with the second pick, if you see an offensive lineman, you go offensive lineman, and then with the third pick, you go wide receiver. The fourth pick, you go. I would get Mason McCormick if he's there, or if you like a cornerback. I think if you bring in another cornerback in free agency, you got the privilege to draft a corner outside the top 100 and just develop him. But
yeah,
that's how I do it.
I think that the Lions are probably, when you look at these short contracts, I think that the Lions are probably thinking they want to add a receiver, a corner through the draft so that you can have the benefit of, a 4-year deal, low cap hit, someone that can develop. And right now, to your point, you've got Cam Sutton under contract, Carlton Davis and Amik Robertson. Well, Carlton Davis is only here for 1 year, but the other two guys are here for 2 years. And, that contract has symmetry with Cam Sutton. So Cam and Amik are here for the next 2. Carlton's here for this year. And that's why I think that the Lions are probably going to add a number one corner in this draft. It does not have to be a number one corner. He doesn't have to put his feet to the fire. He can learn behind 3 vets and be in a very good position rotationally to get his feet wet this year. And then they don't have to keep a Carlton Davis signed at $14.5 million next year. You would have another contract that is, you would lower your cap hit by $10 million, which they would need to do by re-signing, all the guys that they want to re-sign or extend. They're going to have to save money somewhere. And that's where you're going to have to save it, is at your number one position. So cornerback's an expensive position. It's one of those, it's one of the top 4 positions, top 4 paid positions in the league.
Yeah, I think this is the draft where Brad Holmes gonna have to draft for need. And if I was him, I would trade those later round picks for a 4th round pick. Those pick in the top in the late 100s, I would trade that for an early 4th round pick or something like that.
Yeah, I would too.
You will have 5 solid picks.
I would definitely want to stay as north of 100 as I could. But hey, we got a couple of other callers trying to call in. Donovan, I appreciate you calling in tonight and reminded me with your super chat to open up the phone lines. You're always great to call, and appreciate you calling. And call me next time, man. We'll chat next time.
All right, for sure.
All right, man. Take care. All right, phone line is now open, so whoever called, you guys will have an opportunity to call in now. Obviously, I don't know who called, but feel free to call the number 313-312-0348. You know, at the end of the day, I mean, Donovan brings up a lot of good points too. That maybe Josh Reynolds isn't the guy. Maybe you add a guy in the draft that can take over that spot. Hey, this is Will with Rockdown Lions. Who do I got on the phone?
You got Sports Talk with Rob.
Sports Talk with Rob, man. Been a minute. Where you been?
I've been working, man. You know what I'm saying? I still be listening, but I be trying to sometimes find a way to pop up, man. So,
hey, did you ever email me?
So I haven't emailed you, so that's another thing, bro. I want to email you when I'm actually have an exact date or when I have some free time. I don't want to, play with your time or nothing like that. I'm trying to figure out a good day I could know if I have some free time.
I got you. So I'm going to put my new schedule up, for the rest of the year, at least until the draft. And that way I'm on, exact days. So it'll always be 8 PM, these days, or 8 in the morning on these days, so that you can maybe find a time to jump in. But anyway, what's on your mind tonight, man? What you thinking?
Look, so I want to talk about probably free agency, right?
Yeah.
When free agency started, I ain't gonna lie. I always been a guy like trusting Brad. But I ain't gonna lie, at first, I was a little disappointed. Now, the reason why I was disappointed, only because I thought this was the year where free agency was gonna be our destination when it comes to, top free agencies, right? And that's something I've been waiting on for a while. And I thought for sure we was going to get Hunter. I thought we were going to get some of these top guys. But the more and more, since these days has passed now, and the more I do more research on these guys that we got, I kind of like what the guys that we did get.
Yep.
The cornerback from the Buccaneers. I think he has potential where he can be a lockdown cornerback. I've seen his tape. One thing I like, he got long arms, and he can play man-to-man. I saw Jamar Chase. He made a statement saying he was one of the toughest corners that he faced. So that's a good sign. And I like his confidence. He said one side just completely unavailable. But we'll see. So you got to show me. But
yeah.
But another thing, Reader. I had to really pay attention to him. And I'm like, wow, okay. Because me, we always talk about the pass rush, but I think with a guy like Reader, he can help the pass rush in a way because he's the type of guy he need about 2 guys on him. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like what hurt us the most that Aiden Hutchinson, he get double teamed the outside, and that could be tough. But now you got a force in the middle now where he need that. He need double team. You put him 1-on-1, it's over. So now I feel like he's going to open up for a lot of guys now, like Neil, Hutchinson, you know what I'm saying, and the rest of the guys. So I like that pickup as well. I like their strategy. It looks like they're just trying to make sure they add as many players they can. Make sure we have that depth on our team, right? And I feel like in this draft, 2 positions that they need to focus on is offensive lineman and defensive end.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure what's the best offensive lineman coming out of the draft, but a defensive end that I like is Muhammad Kamara. Colorado State. Kamara.
Yeah, Kamara. So you know what's funny, Rob, is people finally start to come to my side a little bit once in a while. Like I don't know how long you've been listening, or if you've had an opportunity to hear where I've been calling for a defensive tackle to join this team, because the path to the quarterback has always been through the center of a defense. And when you can break, when you break that, I keep saying this over, I'm going to repeat myself again. When you break that center link in the chain, what happens? It falls apart. You can't put it back together. But if you break the end of a chain, you can just slide the chain down, right? But if you break the middle, you can't mend it. Now, I'm using all these analogies and all these psychology things that they teach, when you're teaching, the defensive line how to play. It's break the middle chain, the middle link, and the rest will fall. It's the same thing that's been used for centuries in war. You know, you break the middle. You don't attack from the side. You break it in the middle, and the rest of it, and then you surround them and you collapse it. Right? I mean, any which way you want to use the analogy or the, you know, the systematic process, it's simple. The path to the quarterback is through the middle. Our best defense was when we had Nick Fairley and Ndamukong Suh in the middle thrashing. Yep. Now DJ Reader's not an Ndamukong Suh, but you're right. He is going to command a double team. He has pretty much his whole career. So now think about it. You got 5 guys on the offensive line and 2 are on Reader. You still got 3 other defensive linemen, and you've got an outside linebacker. So now you got a mismatch. You got 4 on 3. Or you've got 4 on 2. So I think it's going to be highly beneficial, and we're not done yet. We're not done adding pieces. If we even think for a moment that Brad's not going to add or find a top tier defensive end, either in this draft or with the guys that we already have, I think we'd be sorely mistaken. I think it's going to be an amazing change or difference this year, but go ahead.
Yeah, you know, and also each day I'm starting to really understand Brad and Dan when they mean. I mean, where we all know about grit, like you gotta have that grit mentality. But now I'm starting to understand what they mean now. When Brad said everybody came to play for Lions, even when I hear a guy like Reader press conference, he all about, hey, I want to make other guys better.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Hey, I want to. You know what I'm saying? I want to. He said something key. I want to make Neil job better. I want to make Aiden Hutchinson job better. You know what I'm saying? I want to do what I have to do. And one of the main things that Dan preached, man, just do your assignment.
Yep.
And I think I'm starting to really understand that now. It's like, and I don't see nothing wrong with it because you think about it, man. A lot of the teams that won championships, they have that mentality. You know, think about the Patriots way. A lot of guys will say, "Hey, it was okay playing with Belichick." There's a lot of guys that say, "Man, that Patriot way, man, that wasn't for me." You know, but I think that's the type of, like, even though as fans we might not understand as well because we're like, man, we need this, we need that. Oh, why you ain't do this? You know, but you know what? This is how you build it's how you build culture, and it's how you build championship teams. You know,
the biggest thing, the biggest thing, Rob, I think, is as a Lions fan, at least for me, and what I understand, and what's taken me a while to have some emotional intelligence with, is patience. And I know it's hard. It's hard to be patient because we've been so ready for decades to finally have a winner in Detroit. And now we're on the cusp. And it's like, darn it, Brad, just go get the best player out there. We'll win. Well, sometimes that doesn't work. I mean, look how many teams do win in March and April and don't even make it to the playoffs. It happens every year. And you know, you have teams that were in the playoffs that don't even make it back. You have the championship team that, you know, it's very rare that they even make it back, let alone back to the playoffs the next year. So the Patriot way, like you talk, man, a lot of those guys took pay cuts to keep a good team around. Obviously, you know, dynamics were different back then because there wasn't caps on the cap, you know, like there was a rookie cap. Now you have a rookie cap. So rookie contracts are what they are. Whereas Ndamukong Suh, you know, gets like $100 million contract from day one. And, you know, Matt Stafford gets like $130 million contract from day one. Well, now those contracts are like 30 million, 40 million. It's a big difference. So, I mean, there was one point the Lions had 3 guys that were like 70% of the entire salary cap. How can you build a team around that? You can't.
Right.
That's why Tom Brady made $20 million every year for like 19 years. He didn't get paid until his 19th season.
Yep. And guess what? Got him 6, 7. We got 7 rings. 6.
Yeah, I think he's got 7.
Got 7 rings. So
yeah,
I mean, it's worth something a day. And plus, let's keep it real, bro. When you in the NFL, you ain't just getting the NFL money. You know, so you're gonna get endorsements. You know, especially with social media, you can make money anywhere now. So yeah, man. Another thing I want to talk about too. What I like what's going on with our organization. You could tell that we really want to win. The reason why I say that, I remember Calvin Johnson. He used to say, before, he had his issues, like it's around the time he had his issues with the organization and whatnot. And, he'll go on these interviews and they ask him, when you was like, you know, you was kind of set up. And he talked about when that year we lost to the Cowboys in the playoffs, we had the #1 defense, and, you know, our offense was flowing. But they end up letting them go Reggie Bush. They end up Sue go away. They didn't want to pay Sue. Nick Fairley was gone. So he was very frustrated because he took that big contract, long contract, thinking like, oh, you know what, moving forward, you know what I'm saying? They want to win moving forward. And he's like, at that moment, he was like, man, they don't want to win over here. Like, you know what I'm saying? They playing around. As for now, and this is why I got to give a lot of credit to Sheila Ford, man, because now she changed the mentality. And one thing I love about her, I said this before, she trusts in Brad and Dan. She let Dan and Brad do their job.
Yep.
She's not trying to be the general manager, the owner, the coach. Like, she's not trying to do that. You know what I'm saying? There's been times when they had, like, behind the scenes, you know, doing a draft, and Dan would just tell her, hey, I think we're going to go this direction. She's like, oh, okay. You know what I'm saying? I love that, you know? You know, it's like, when people we talk about the Cowboys. Let's talk about the Cowboys. Like, the reason why they've been struggling because they got an owner that he want to put his hand in everything. I remember seeing an interview of Jerry Jones. You know what they say under his name? They say he's the owner, vice president, general manager. I'm like, bro, he got all these lists. Like, bro, no wonder y'all struggling. So,
I mean, dude, he makes all the draft picks too. I mean, if you guys watch the last year's draft, I mean, he's the one that's turning in all the tickets and writing the names down. He's the one picking it. The general manager's not. And that
exactly.
That's why the team struggles, dude. I mean, it's like you've got to hire people to let them do their job. And if they're not good at their job, then why are you paying this guy $10 million just to sit next to you to be a yes man? I'll be more than happy to look. I'll be more than happy to do it for like 1.5 all day long, Jerry. Give me a call. I'll sit right next to you and just say yes to everything that you need me to say yes to without a problem.
Right. And then what I don't like, then it messed up the coach reputation. Like, he don't know what he's doing, or the players don't like, and then make the players look bad because you the one picking these players. So
yeah,
but yeah, I don't want to talk too much about Jerry. You know what I'm saying? But it is what it is over there. But yeah, I really appreciate Sheila Ford what she's doing, man. And, and she honestly, she really turning this organization, you know what I'm saying, to the right direction.
No, she has, without a doubt. Also, I mean, it's amazing when you finally have somebody that's extremely competent about competition and what it's like to develop a winning team. And that was the first thing that was important to her, was how do I develop a winning team around me so that then they can build a winning team around us. And she stripped it all the way back and then started implementing piece after piece, started repairing relationships with Calvin Johnson, bringing Chris Spielman in. I mean, it was very calculated. It was well done the way that she, you know, has done everything. But to your point, she trusts the guys that she hired. The year before last, she steps up to the mic and says, I've got the right guys. Just be patient.
Yeah.
We've got the right guys. And the next year we go to the NFC title game. I mean, so you just needed to be a little bit more patient. And now we're trying to stay a little bit more patient, you know, with what they're doing, you know, with the draft picks or with, you know, I mean, free agency and the guys that we're bringing in. They haven't really let us down yet. They did exactly what I thought that they were going to do this offseason, which was address the middle of the defense and the back of the defense. Now it's time to draft the rest of the guys around them. And I think we're going places.
We're going places for sure. And I ain't going to lie. Like, for a minute, I was a little worried with what Chicago did when bringing Keenan Allen. Now, I'm even more confident with our chance to win the division because Chicago is so stupid, bro. Like, as an organization, they are so stupid. Like, I don't understand. Like, you traded your first pick last year because you didn't want to draft a quarterback, which is stupid because you had other options that you could have drafted at #1 on the defensive end. Now, you get one thing I said, and Justin Fields, he been low key. He had our number, bro. And I felt like the only thing that he needed was probably the offensive alignment and some more talent. Y'all gave him that. Y'all decided to trade him. So you got more faith and a rookie quarterback coming in.
Mm-hmm.
And people telling, oh no, Caleb Williams. I'm not scared of no rookie. I don't care what he has around him.
Yep.
I was more scared of Justin Fields. You know what I'm saying? So I like our chances moving forward. I can't wait for the season. I know I'm all over the place, bro, because I know I ain't got a lot of time on here. But
no, you're good. You're good.
Yeah, also,
you know what's funny, man?
also,
Hold on, one more thing. You know what's funny is, you talk about rookie quarterbacks and not being scared of them. I broke it all down last year in a podcast episode, and I should probably revisit it because no one probably watched it. It was before anything happened on my channel, and I broke it all down. I went all the way back to like 2017, and there was literally until this past year 3 quarterbacks that have done anything as a rookie. Out of all of those first round picks since 2016, 3 quarterbacks did anything. Lamar went to a playoff game and lost as a rookie. Patrick Mahomes does Patrick Mahomes things, and Joe Burrow. That's it. And then Jared Goff was right behind them, and he was the second winningest quarterback in the league in the postseason, and now definitely is next to Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
So rookies don't help you. They don't help you. On average, 2.5 seasons.
If I could add one more quarterback, and you still got a long way, but I would say C.J. Stroud.
Yeah, he's the one that added his name to the list this year.
Yeah, so yeah, man, like quarterbacks, that's tough drafting though. Like honestly, because I don't really, when I see your stats in college, don't really mean much to me. Like
Right. Yeah.
So also another thing, I like DBJ coming back.
Yep.
And honestly, look, when I'm the type of person, I could get very emotional at the moment, and I ain't gonna lie, I was one of the people with Josh Reynolds, like, man, my boy gotta go. My boy gotta go. But once you calm down, days pass by, I would have been okay, Josh coming back, because you know what? One thing I learned about sports, just being a person, a man, period, stuff like that will motivate you to be better. You know what I'm saying? And I really think that game will better Josh moving forward. So and I, honestly, I feel like I hear, we might have a chance to get him back, but I don't think he's coming back. But I like DBJ come back because he's always been a good receiver. I've been watching him since he was in Cass Tech. He could ball. I loved him at Michigan. His first 3 years in Cleveland, he always like, you look at year one, he had a decent rookie season. He wasn't really involved, but what he done, I feel like he did good enough. But second year, he elevated. I think his third year, that was his best season when he almost hit 1,000 yards. And I don't know what happened this past season where, I don't know. But I feel like if you give him the opportunity, he showed glitz and glamour what he could do this season a little bit. You give him the opportunity as as probably like a full-time receiver, he could do some good things, bro. Honestly, I think the one thing that Josh could do better at DBJ is just the route running. I think you said that earlier. He's a good route runner, but I think he could catch the ball. He could catch in the tight places. He might not be the fast, but he's fast enough where he could throw. You want to throw a go route at him. He got height, and he's stronger. For sure, stronger than Josh. So I like that pickup. He's a hometown kid, so I think that's enough motivation for him. To really show out this year.
Yeah, you know what I'm going to do since you bring it up, DPJ, because I broke him down quite a bit. Here we go. Here it is right here. I'm gonna take this right now and I'm gonna share it, and I'm gonna put it into the community tab as a message. So after the show tonight, I will schedule it, and then I'll put in the video of DPJ where I break down his highlights and kind of go over a lot about him, because the dude's a boundary receiver. He's a 50-50 ball guy. And to your point about what happened last year is the fact that Deshaun Watson was injured all the time. They had a quarterback in that couldn't throw the damn ball. They were running the ball. So the fact that they had to run the ball all season, obviously DPJ didn't get all the targets. How do you go from 800 yards to nothing? That doesn't make any
sense.
It don't make any sense. And so what made sense is they were running the ball more than they were throwing the ball. And the thing I'm going to say about quarterbacks too, like I'm not scared of rookie quarterbacks at all. Just like you said, you're not. I'm more scared of the vets that are sitting at home that maybe just retired or maybe one, out of the league a season. Look at Joey Flacco, man. The dude comes back and wins comeback player of the year at darn near 38 years old and gets a second opportunity now with the Colts. I mean, he was done at home taking care of his kids and retired, but the dude can still ball. Those are the guys that I worry about. Those are I don't worry about the rookies that have to come in and learn the game where it's too fast for them in their first year. Like you said, I don't care what you did in college. You now need to multiply that speed by 2 the minute you enter the NFL, because the best cornerback that you faced in college is the worst cornerback you're going to face in the NFL.
Yep.
That's how tough it is.
Yep.
So.
And it's another thing. Because you bring in a rookie quarterback. I was talking about not being scared. Another thing with Chicago, I was nervous. I'm like, wow, you get Keenan Allen, you got Swift. Now you got DJ Moore. Now you got receivers you could throw to, and you a threat with your legs. And y'all just took it away. Y'all just did us a favor. Honestly, only team that I'm nervous about, I ain't gonna say nervous about, I feel like, give us a problem is Green Bay, at this point. You know what I'm saying? But it's like, Bears as an organization, I wish bad things to the Bears organization because that don't make sense. And then you have the nerve to trade him to a team where he could be a backup. Like, this is really made me mad. Like, come on, man, you cannot do that because I don't think it could mess up his career because I feel like the reason why Pittsburgh did that because they don't really trust in Russ, in my opinion. But man, like to me that was bold. That was real bold. You know what I'm saying? To do him like that because I feel like he's a starter in this league. But
yeah,
but it is what it is. As long as it helps us, it is what it is.
Absolutely. Well, hey Rob, I appreciate you calling tonight, man. I'm gonna be wrapping it up. We're going on 10 o'clock. We're gonna send it off tonight. So I appreciate you calling, and I'll put the schedule out. So look for it either in the YouTube bio. It'll be on the Twitter page. It'll be on the Facebook page. I'll put it out there. I'll put it in the community tab. So, I mean, if you guys even want to lock it into your calendar, not that I need to belong in your calendar, but I'm just saying, if you want to know and remember, it's 8 o'clock. We'll be doing Sunday nights, Monday nights, Wednesday nights, Friday nights for sure right now. So kind of every other day, and then Tuesday and Thursday morning. And I'm thinking about adding a Saturday morning for the morning show. So every day, 7 days a week, we're going to get to it.
Okay, cool.
All right, buddy. I appreciate you, man. Let's go Lions. We'll talk to you again soon.
Thank you, man. And I appreciate you considering that too, man. I really do. And thank you for creating this platform where you can have people call me and have a voice. So
hey, it's all about you guys, man. I started it as a way to, get through some things I was going through with the cancer and everything. And it's evolved, and it's evolved because I have the best community in the world right here, Lions fans. And that's what it's all about. So appreciate you, man.
Thank you. No problem, man. Appreciate you.
All right. Bye-bye. All right. So you heard a lot from Rob, man. He ain't worried about no rookies. He's not worried about any rookies. So the Bears, they royally screwed up. I've got those 3 teams that I'm going to talk about in another show here. We'll probably do that tomorrow night. Tomorrow is Monday. So we'll talk about that tomorrow night. And as far as the community tab, so something I started today, kind of yesterday, is I'm starting to throw like videos from around the league, like, NFL videos, Lions videos, highlights, kind of highlighting all of our players. So if you visit the community tab on the YouTube page, Rocked On Podcast Network, and check out the community page, there's going to be all sorts of highlights posted. I just put DPJ's video in there that I did a few months ago. I think I did a pretty good job with it, and I think you guys will enjoy it. There's a lot of great information in there, and you get to see, the highlights of this guy and what he brings to this team. At 25 years old, has yet to break out, and I mean, he was a baller at U of M. There's no reason in the world why he can't have an incredible season in 2024. Obviously, he's not going to be taking a whole lot away from Sam Laporta or JAHMYR GIBBS or Amon-Ra St. Brown. He's going to have to earn his reps, but now he's going to get a full off season with Jared Goff and get through the spring camps, the mini camps, the OTAs, all of it. And he'll be a much better player because of it. So anyway, I appreciate you all for joining tonight's Off the Cuff Rock Down Detroit Lions on Sunday night, March 17th. And please do us all a favor and visit sportspider.com on your way out tonight. That's sportspyder.com. Get all of your sports in one place. They are an excellent sponsor of this channel. We certainly appreciate them. Do yourself a favor, get all your sports in one place with sportspider.com. It's also linked in the description every single time that we're on and in every single video. Check it out. Make it your go-to place for sports. All right. Next week we'll be next week we'll be in a new, I guess, sort of a schedule. I will post it like I discussed, and it'll be available for you so you know when we're on, where we're on. And don't forget, April 1st is coming really quickly. If you guys join at Rockdown Syndicate, you will be able to catch the morning show, which is right now on Tuesdays and Thursdays, soon to be Saturdays. And you'll only be able to watch it there beginning April 1st. And that's not an April Fool's Day joke. I promise you. It has to go. So, all right, y'all. Appreciate you. Go on Pride. Go Detroit Lions. Until the next time, please take care. We'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.